Coming up on August 12th, more voters will have the opportunity to cast their ballots on 7 important measures. 6 of those measures concern changes in the City of Moore charter. The 7th asks voters to consider a change in the hotel-motel occupancy tax. Mayor Mark Hamm says while the election doesn't involve candidates seeking office, it's still important for voters to make their voices heard.
Briefly about elections, they all have consequences. So it's important that people go and vote, even in your municipal elections when you think it just doesn't matter.
That cleaning up of policy begins with a change that impacts city revenue, raising the hotel-motel occupancy tax from 5% to 8%. City Manager Brooks Mitchell says this change would have a positive impact on revenue with a very low impact on residents.
And as far as the hotel motel tax, it will just create another revenue opportunity for us that we can put back into the community that our citizens don't pay.
Oklahoma City's current hotel motel tax is 9.25%. Norman's is 8%. The expectation is that with OU joining the Southeastern Conference, Moore can expect more out-of-town fans to stay at city hotels.
And so we're just trying to capitalize on that. If this is passed, that will bring in an additional $300,000 on an annual basis that we will use for parks and or public transportation if the council decides to go that route. The thing that's important is the Moore residents don't pay this. It's all the people coming from outside of Moore.
That's why it's so important. And we look, again, for this additional revenue as a way that's not going to burden our residents, but people are visiting our city, either they're attending a football game or a basketball game or just passing through. They're going to pay a little bit extra to stay in Moore.
Residents of Moore are exempt from paying the tax if their residence can be verified by hotel staff. There are 6 measures voters will decide on amending the city's charter. A quarter century has passed since Moore's charter was last updated, and the city has experienced significant changes over that 25 years.
Right. Our city charter is I've always viewed it as the city's constitution. It's the way that we operate and function and kind of outlines how we're going to do business. So it's important that that document be relevant to today.
Essentially what this is, it's updating the charter for how we do business now. When those provisions of the charter were passed, it was years ago. And so the city obviously has grown a lot since then. And so we're just trying to mirror the charter with what's actually happening right now.
One measure would amend the charter to increase the compensation for the mayor from $300 to $500 per month, and for city council members from $100 to $200 per month.
You know, as the mayor and as council members, we do a lot more than just attend a meeting twice a month. We do a lot of work in our growing and busy community.
If this were to pass, I'm not going to be able to take advantage of that unless I were to get reelected, and the council members would be the same. So that's probably 2 or 3 years away.
The compensation will not take effect until the next round of elections in 2028 and 2029. So the current mayor and council members will not benefit from this unless they happen to get reelected the next go around.
And about those elections, the current city charter requires candidates for mayor or city council to own property within the city limits. If approved by voters, candidates would simply need to be a registered voter at an address within the city of Moore for at least 1 year prior to filing as a candidate.
And recognizing that not everybody owns homes, but they're still able to participate, we wanted to change that to accommodate the growth of the city. When that was put in, the city was much smaller than it is today.
Not everybody is going to be able to afford a home. They might live in an apartment or a duplex, and they deserve an opportunity to run for city council or mayor if they choose to do so.
Candidates would also need to be at least 25 years of age. Another amendment would remove the personnel board from the charter, along with procedures for hearings before such a board.
The personnel board has never been used since I've been here. I'm not aware of anyone that knows that it has been used. And essentially, they're enough. The procedures set out in the current policy and personnel manual address any of those issues that the city leadership can make.
But I've never been a part of appointing anybody to that board. I've never known us to use that board. So I think it's no longer useful, so we're going to remove it. We have a human resources department, and there are other avenues that employees can take if they feel they've been treated unfairly or unjustly.
Also on the ballot, amending employee classification rules. Under the current charter, most of the city employees are considered unclassified. This amendment would remove a population requirement of 30,000 people before the city could change classifications for employees.
But I do know it only impacts 2 or 3 people within our city. So it's just one of those things that is just probably not necessary for all of our city employees.
So the intent is that all of the employees, with a handful of exceptions, the city manager being one of them, are unclassified, but all the rest of the employees would be classified, and then they would follow under the policy and procedures manual.
Another current charter policy requires a city council vote or change in ordinance in order to sell any city property valued at $25,000 or higher. If approved by voters, that threshold would be changed to $75,000.
So it's just going to allow for a more efficient government. As prices have increased, there's no need for us to approve everything.
And so essentially what this does is it accounts for the inflation over the last 25 years. Because a lot of the things, well, very few things we buy now as far as equipment cost less than $25,000.
And finally, voters are being asked to amend the duties of the city clerk and city treasurer.
Back in the day, years ago, the city clerk did a lot of the accounting and finance duties. Well, the city clerk no longer does that. And so essentially what this does is it lists in the charter what the city clerk, the duties the city clerk actually performs right now. And then as far as the city treasurer goes, it delegates that title to the finance director, and which is what's been the case for many years now.
While the measures on the August 12th ballot may not attract the kind of attention voters give to other elections, city leaders say it's critical to make sure the charter is keeping up with the changes Moore has experienced.
And if you have questions, just please give us a call. This isn't meant to be confusing. It's meant to be helpful, and there's no secrets here, and it's all above board. So we would love to talk with you if you have questions about it.
If passed, the change would not go into effect until the next election.
Being a mayor and a city council member is more than just attending 2 meetings a month.